to another episode of Coder Conversations. This is Kevin.
This is TC.
Man, what's been going on?
A little busy weekend. Had a birthday party yesterday, and I was busy helping out with some family today. Uh, I didn't think that like setting up wireless cameras, or not wireless
Mhm.
cameras, but like setting up like cameras for a house would take all day. But yeah, like you, for me, it was like okay, yeah, I'll do it. It'll take a couple hours. It ended up taking like 6 or 7 hours of the day, like when you don't have all the stuff you need, you got to go back, and it was fun though. It was fun seeing it all come together.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, man. This weekend I was pretty much, I got with a few friends and we kind of had lunch and we was just discussing like different like potential business opportunities, kind of like side
Hmm.
hustles that we could jump into.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
I think that's like really important to start looking at, man, because
Hmm.
one job just doesn't seem to pay the bills. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. I mean, and even if it does, it's like how do you you want to get ahead, right?
Yeah,
Like you know the point I'm trying to make is this: like even with the money that you have coming in, you almost feel like you're not making as much progress as you would like, or you're not going in the right direction as you would like. Um, yeah, it's like you're never as far as you want to be, if
hmm
that makes sense. It's like you
yeah,
could you put in the work and then you're like, okay, I want to get this far in 3 months and 2 months and 4 months, and then you seem to be getting there, and then something happens and then you're back
yeah,
at square one, a couple months later.
yeah. There's always some expenditure that kind of like pops up out of nowhere, and then it's like
Yeah.
I thought I had some savings, not anymore.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so aren't you starting a new job somewhat soon?
I am. I am. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Starting a new job, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. That's gonna be a lot of fun. And a little scary.
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. It's definitely scary. Um, but yeah, starting a new job in August. But I've been preparing and like going over my courses and stuff, and I think I'm in a pretty good spot. I just
yeah,
gotta stay on top of it.
yeah. It's always you. What's crazy? A lot of people aren't really that professional when entering a new job. Like, clients they just come in and maybe they don't attend the meetings or whatever. Like, making that first impression is huge. So it's good
Yeah.
that you're taking the time to prepare.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was funny because I kept asking questions that like that seemed negative. It's like, okay, uh, how would a person not, how would someone not excel in this role, right? Like
Hmm
asking those type of questions, and even though they came off as negative, um, I heard something from someone, or I heard something from this professional speaker. His name is Jim Rohn, and he says, "Don't show me how they got successful. Show me all the ways that they didn't get successful. Show me
hmm
how they failed,
Yeah,
and I'll learn way more from that than I will from their success." And that stuck with me. It was like, wow, like okay, let me learn how somebody like failed in the position that I'm going to go into. Like if something has if a place has a high turnover rate, I'm not saying the place I'm going into is going to have one, but just for example, if if a position I'm going to go into has a high turnover rate, I want to know how they failed. Is it
hmm
burnout? Is it stress? Is it time management? Like, what are they struggling with? So I know what I'm getting myself into.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you definitely got to do your research before you join a company. Last thing you want to do is jump into like, like a boiling pit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
What we have to do, man, is kind of think like, why does this company have this particular opening? Because a company's gonna ask you the question, why are you leaving your job?
yeah,
Why are you looking for a new job? So you can
right.
ask that question right back, like, why is this position opening? Is like the turnover is so high that everybody's like flooding out. They just need somebody to come in. Like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, like why is this role open? Like, what are you looking for? Because it's definitely a reciprocal relationship, right? It's
yeah,
like, okay, you need me and I need you, but what's really going on here? And you kind of have to play that dance of like, what are you looking for? What am I looking for? Are we really compatible?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like, what were some of the things that stood out to you about the, like the company you just jumped into?
Um, Everyone seemed very mellow, down to earth. No one gave off that vibe like outside of this, I'm extremely stressed. Like this job is not a cakewalk. It's not like it's not a good place to work. Everybody seems to give this the vibe of like, okay, this is cool. Like, all right. Uh, Everybody was really humble as well. You know, even if I didn't, I felt like if I don't know something, I could easily go to somebody and ask them, hey, how do you do this? Or hey, can you explain something to me? Um, and at least they gave off they gave off that vibe, and especially during like the interview process, where uh, even after the interview, like for a couple like 10 to 15 minutes, we were just chatting it up, and
Yeah,
I think that really gave a good vibe
yeah,
because I and let me know if you felt this, but like when interviewing with people, it's almost like you have to give like you have to be like 100%. Like you're there's that stress or that weight of like I have to answer this question perfectly. I have to respond perfectly to this question. I have to be like 100% and not really allow my true personality to shine.
hmm.
I don't know if you felt that. Have you felt that before?
Well, where you can't just allow your personality to shine.
Where like if I'm asking you a question and we're
Hmm.
chatting like this, right? It's not stressful, right? It's not like I'm interrogating you, but during
Yeah,
an interview, it's like you don't know the answer that they're looking for, so you have to just give like a super general answer
hmm,
that and try to hope or try to get like that
yeah,
magic bullet of like this is the exact answer that they want, and this is what they're looking for. It's less of me just exploring the idea and trying to answer the question in my own way, and more of here's the textbook answer to this question that you asked.
well, honestly, I'm gonna just answer it however I feel like answering it, man. Like, it's almost like dating to where,
Right.
you could try to get the perfect answer, even though it's not true, and maybe they like you because of that. But sooner
Yeah.
or later, you're gonna have to keep up that charade, and sooner or
Yeah.
later, you're gonna get tired of pretending, and you're gonna have to be yourself, and that's probably gonna break up the relationship. So like
Mm.
even when it comes to interviews, I'm gonna just say, what I think, what I feel is really the best answer. And if that disqualifies me, good, because I'm not a fit for that company.
Yeah. No,
So
makes
yeah,
sense.
we actually got a comment in the chat
Really,
uh, from Luis. It says, "Have you thought of building your own software as a service platform?"
personally, s- not necessarily like a software as a service, but I
Yeah.
have thought about like building like an app, like for personal
Mhm.
use. Yeah, like my girlfriend gave me the idea. She's like, "Man, you should make an app." Well, she didn't say man, but she was like, "You should make an app that you know does like if you go to a place, like you can map out your destination, and then it'll tell you like sites to see like on the way to
Yeah.
that destination." All right, that's cool. But I've never thought of like a software as a service. Um,
Mhm.
have you?
You what's interesting is like this weekend I was chatting with a bunch of friends who's kind of talking about different business opportunities. One of the guys there, he actually created like a fantasy football app, like maybe like 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and it got really popular. And I guess the NFL seen it, they kind of wanted to put their brand on it. So
Mm,
yeah, they branded his app, and he made a lot of money off of that. But like me personally, no, because I don't know, man. I'm just not that creative. You know what I mean? And making typical apps is kind of like it's just boring to me. You know what I mean? Like uh,
Yeah, but
what a to do list, or it's not really that exciting to me, man. Like,
right. But those are like really beginner applications, right? Like when you really, I think once you get into the world of SaaS and you start getting users, then the game really changes, right? Because now it's not just you building an app for yourself, it's you building an app and supporting it and supporting the users that built that app. So for me, it now becomes a responsibility, whether I like it or not. Like once I deliver this application and put it out there for the to the world for people to use, I have to now maintain it. And I think that's I'd have to really love this idea to really like keep up with it
yeah,
because like even with this like a project that I did for 310, after a while I thought, okay, cool, it's done, it's delivered, it works fine. But then having to maintain it and being the sole developer to maintain that project, it
yeah,
became really annoying. It's like
yeah.
man, like
That's kind of like why I haven't made my own now, because there's nothing like I can think that hasn't been done that I can do and make it better, or
yeah,
some unique, really unique idea. It's like, do I
right.
want to expend all this time and energy to something I don't care about?
Yeah, you gotta really love it. You gotta love that idea. You gotta love it, especially if you're trying to turn it into a something you want to sell one day,
Yeah,
right? You have to really love the product and stuff. Like the guys at Pillar, like they love that app. Like they
hmm,
love it. They love the technologies behind it. They love the features and pushing new features and things like that. And it's like it's
yeah,
amazing to see that passion. And it's very contagious too. Um, and I think if you're going to build a SaaS platform, you have to get the right people to
yeah.
to to join you in that journey.
And I think you got to also build something that you don't really care if it's probably like this would be something you would build even if you didn't make a dime from it.
Yep,
Like
yep,
kind of, like with this podcast where we haven't made a dime from it, but it's fun enough for us to do every week. So
yeah,
you kind
for
of
sure.
your project has to be like that for you to keep on, like, you know after you get done coding at work, you don't really feel like coding more after work. So you
Yeah.
have to be passionate about that project and just want to do it for the project's sake, for you to get the juice to do it in your free time.
Hmm.
And for me, like software as a service, that doesn't really get me going. I think I'm more into like game. Like I would want to make a game, or something interactive like that.
So do you have you stepped into the world of Unity yet?
Yeah, I've always dabbled with Unity, but for whatever reason, man, I just stopped doing it after a while. I don't know what it is, but I'll do a couple of tutorials, then stop. I think I get sidetracked so easily, man.
Mm,
Like, do you know what like code guilt is? Like, where you feel like if you're not learning this specific thing, you're gonna fall behind.
a
And
specific thing?
yeah, like, okay, if I'm not studying data structures and algorithms, if I'm not studying this framework, you know,
Yeah.
uh,
Um, I don't feel that way personally. Like when I crack that when I crack the job and get the I get the offer, then it
mhm,
becomes a matter of less of DS and algos and more of uh, do I know how a hammer works? Do I know how a saw works? Do I know how React works? Do I know how TypeScript works?
mhm.
Do I know like just brushing up in those areas and like mentally giving myself the
Yeah.
uh, confidence.
Yes, so for me, it's kind of like, hey, how's it going, Sean?
What's up,
Hey
Sean?
guys, how's it going, man?
Chilling,
Not
chilling.
bad, not bad. Yeah, we're just kind of discussing like if do you ever have like cold guilt, like like where you feel like in your free time you need to be studying these specific things, like data structures and algorithms or something else, and it kind of keeps you from researching what you really love to do.
Um, Sometimes I think if I know I'm going to be on a job hunt or something like that, I mean I
Hmm.
just know where the priority is. It's going to be leak code or something of that nature.
Yeah.
But in general, I actually tend to if I want to do something, then I'll go focus on that.
No. Okay.
I think somebody asked me once if I could define the definition of focus, and my
Mm.
definition is just to eliminate distractions.
Yeah. Yeah. That's hard, man.
That was good. That's a good one.
That's what keeps me from like just really focusing on something like, okay, I need to study RxJS. I jump into a course on that. Oh, well, I need to study maybe data structures, algorithms. I do that for
Yeah.
like, I just jump from thing to thing to thing.
Have you tried using the Pomodoro technique? Have you heard of it?
I remember you telling me about it, but I
The
don't know,
what
for whatever
technique?
reason, I was
The
thinking that
Pomodoro
word.
technique. Have you guys heard of it?
I don't think I've even heard of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got this idea from a he's a neuroscientist now, but we used to go to school together. And he was like really straight A's throughout forever, and I was like, man, how do you do it? And he's like, 25 minutes of studying, 5 minute break. 25
Mm,
minutes of studying, 5 minute break. And I study that's how he studied in intervals, and that's how he did anything, homework, studying for a test. Obviously, he eliminated distractions where he would be like, all right, I'm not gonna play video games during the week, but that was his
mm,
own personal, like the Pomodoro, like that was his own personal thing. Like the Pomodoro technique was essentially just let me focus in on this one thing for a 25-minute session, and then a 5 minute break, and do whatever I want to do in that 5 minutes, and then go back right to it. And
mm.
the proof is in the pudding. Like I see him, and I'm just like, bro, like that's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
and I've applied it to like everything, like reading, studying. Like once that alarm goes off at 25 minutes, if I'm in the middle of a video, I just pause it and walk away, and it,
Mm.
it helps me to focus, like to regain focus. Like after those 5 minutes, I feel recharged. I don't feel like I'm like dragging myself through this book or this course or something.
Yeah, I do something kind of similar, but I got like ADHD, so I watch like maybe 2 5 minute videos and do something else and come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Oh, go
Having an
ahead.
ADHD friendly approach. I'll try that because that actually sounds interesting. It might even work for me. I read a book called Peak a while back,
Hmm.
and the guy who have you heard of deliberate practice?
Yeah.
No.
So the guy who wrote the book talked a lot about deliberate practice, and to kind of put it in a few words, people who operate at a really high level, like athletes, doctors, and so on, the way that they practice is by focusing on a deficiency they need to correct.
Okay. Yeah.
And so the way I approach it is I look at whatever the topic space happens to be at the moment. I look at what it is I want to achieve or where I want to be. And then I look at where my weakness is and then I zero in on that. I'm a
Mm,
kinesthetic learner. I actually cannot learn from lectures, videos, or reading.
Mm,
I learn by doing.
mm.
same.
The
Yeah.
reading, the reading will help when I have a question, but it won't help to introduce me to something.
Yeah. You, like personally, like I have to break shit. Like, okay, I broke this. I have no idea how to
Yeah.
fix it. Like okay, but like I have an end goal in mind, and then if I break something in the meantime, like, okay, well, why is it broken? And then
Mm.
yeah, even if I take an hour or whatever just to get back to square one, even if I don't hit my goal, like okay, I broke it and I fixed it. Okay, great. Like for example, Friday we had this bug in this React application. I'm just like, bruh, it works on local. Why doesn't it work on production? And we did a bunch of troubleshooting, and then eventually it came to a point where we realized that when in React 18 they introduced this thing where they'll take a component and they'll mount it and they'll unmount it just to test that the component successfully mounts slash unmounts. But then every if you have a you react to this thing called use effects, and so on load you can have like something fire for state. We only really wanted this one thing to fire like once, but it was firing twice, and we couldn't figure out why. And so like, long story short, we didn't really end up coming up with a solution on Friday, but understanding the whole mounting slash unmounting thing was really interesting. Like, I don't think we would have ever gotten to that nugget of knowledge if we didn't run into that bug. So
Yep.
yeah.
Right. Okay, so like on this note, like what do you think about networking? Like, we can't know it all, so
Yeah.
Can't? Sorry. I
Okay.
had to.
Well, woke me up. I don't try to know it all. Personally, I don't try to know it all. Like Google knows everything. There's no need for me to try and memorize everything.
like I kind of think, there's certain things I just don't like to do. Like like say for example, writing descriptions for the or titles for these podcasts. Like I hate to do that,
It doesn't have to be perfect. You can go back and rename it.
but
You know?
yeah, I'm kind of thinking like, do I spend time working on that or do I just hire somebody?
Uh, I don't know. I wouldn't overthink it.
There's websites that I used to use where I'd punch in a few words about what kind of a blog title or a magazine kind of medium post, and then it analyzes it and spits out those clickbaity kind of titles that
Oh, wow.
some of them are remarkably good.
Nice. I never thought about that. It's a clickbait title generator.
That's the things like that when you have a big group of people that get together. Like we would have never known about that unless Sean brought it up to us. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like the beauty of getting in like different networks and hearing different ideas.
Yes. Yeah. No, definitely. Like, I think everybody should be willing to listen. Like, you have 2 ears and one mouth, right? You should listen twice as much as you actually speak. And so, like, if you walk around thinking you know everything, personally, I have an uncle like that who, like, every time I speak to him, he makes it appear as if he already knew it, and you're telling him stuff that he already knows, and I just don't feel like talking to him, and so I
Right.
don't. And then he gets in his feelings, but that's besides the point. The point that I'm trying to make is when people walk around as if they know everything, it makes it, personally for me, it makes me feel like it's hard to approach that person because it's like, okay, well, they already know this. There's no reason to talk to
Somebody
them.
they felt like they knew everything. Like oh, you try to teach us something. No, I already know that. Have y'all ever been in that situation?
Should I admit there's a reason why I'm in this one? Because I do have elements of that I have tried to break so hard. I have been that, Kevin, you probably can sense little elements of it here and there, but I have earlier in my career been the person who had to or did have all the answers, but I was competitive and just trying to be the expert, and it alienated a lot of people out of my life. These days, I try to be more humble, but I definitely have to be super aware of when I'm about to open my mouth, whether I should say it or not.
Yeah. So how do you balance like being confident but not being that know-it-all, like being the guy who's supposed to have the answers to everything?
For me, it just comes down to the fact is no matter how much we think we know, every time someone talks to me, every time there's a conversation, I'm learning. I've always told the story, 15 years into my career when I was at Experian, I built their system to scale to millions of users using, whatever software engineering techniques I learned at the time or up until then. But somebody, she had 6 months of experience. She was a junior developer with just 6 months. And she wrote software so differently and introduced me into solid domain-driven design and test-driven. And it just changed my world. Like, whoa, I didn't know you can do these things. I didn't even know there were words to put to it. So no matter how much you think you know, what we know, we tend to seek people that are similar to us. Like
Yeah.
in those days, I would look for other software developers that I could talk with. But you alienate people that have a different kind of approach, a different, and some people get pretty zealous about it. But I think ultimately for me, to answer your question, with the TLDR kind of version of it is, at some point I learned that we're all learning, and any chance I can get to learn from somebody else, it's better than like I like it when people have something that I have to share. In return, when they do, just keep the conversation and the learning and the dialogue going.
Yeah, I think it's really important, like like just to sit back and ask them, hey, why did you do it like that, instead of saying, why did you do it my way? You know what I mean? Like, what's your thought process? Because especially if you're senior, you kind of almost feel like your way is right over the junior, but they may have, like you mentioned, like a very different but perfectly valid way of doing things.
I find myself in an interesting situation now, as a senior most developer on the team where I'm at and the CTO, but just in terms of like as an individual contributor, I find myself in a position that I'm still learning how to navigate and haven't quite fully got the knack of it yet.
Hmm.
But I have to balance letting everybody do what they want and know how to do with the company having to meet its objective and keep the product going in a specific direction so it doesn't go off track. And sometimes that feels like micromanagement. Maybe it feels like that to me. As the CTO, they don't always speak so openly with me because they don't want to get fired or anything, even though I do have an open door, policy. But there is a lot of I don't the right words to use. It's a journey for me learning how to balance that. And when I do, we make a lot of progress. But still, it's this is why this is why software engineers, when they become senior managers, it's so hard for them to lead well.
Mm. So, like, when somebody initially starts a job with you, what are some of the things that they can do to, like, just look professional? Like, me and Terrence were kind of talking about this earlier. He was telling me, like, sometimes people might, they'll join a company and maybe they don't attend the meetings, you know, uh, or they'll be away from their computer for 2 or 3 hours at a time. You just can't reach them.
Um, I think so. That happens. Um, it's a matter of expectation setting as a leader. Um, we actually only require 90 minutes of meetings a week. Anything beyond that is optional as needed, whether you're needed or not. The 2 45-minute meetings, the whole team gets to it. We call it a stand up, but it's not really a stand up. It's just our time to kind of keep other apprised. And beyond that, the first couple of days is myself and different team members getting with the new hire and orienting them and making sure that they can get their first commit in and stuff like that. What I find often, if people miss meetings, it's because they don't have notifications and the calendar didn't pop up or something. But no reason to get upset over it. It's just here's our meeting, just a conversation, stuff like that. Our developers are set up and ready to go before they start, and most of them on their first day get their first commit into GitHub.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, what about you, Terrence? Like, what are some of the unprofessional things that you've noticed? Like, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, please.
Unprofessional as in
like, somebody say somebody joins your company. What are some of the unprofessional behaviors you've seen that maybe they don't even realize they're doing, but it comes off to you as like, hey, does this guy know that
maybe taking advantage of lunchtime.
Hmm.
Like, they'll we're all adults. No one's really watching the clock like that until it just becomes like obvious. Like, okay, like lunch is 45 minutes. Like
Mhm.
it's been an hour and some change. Like, okay, where is this person? Um, like, we're very flexible with like uh letting people get because it's LA. There's traffic and stuff like that. But then if it becomes a habit, then it's like, okay, like, are you getting your work done? Like, do you have things to do? Are you avoiding work? What's really happening? And it's only really happened a few times. It's not something
Mhm.
like that's like a recurring issue. But I think if it did recur like over and over again, it probably would have become a problem.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. That's probably the big thing, the biggest thing. And then maybe how you dress in the office.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
Coming to work in like sandals and like a raggedy t-shirt is like not a good look. That's
Yeah.
uh that's me speaking about myself. I did that once. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a pretty laid back place, but I think I took it a little too far in that aspect.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so with work from home, I think things are a little bit different, but you should still consider. I still consider working from home and like being on video calls, like trying to iron, like have an iron shirt on at least, or like
Yeah.
like wash your face, or oh, okay, I guess
Yeah,
you're on
man.
set to.
I remember from my first coding job, like me and Brian, we talked about this. Like we were like super casual. Like he said
Yeah,
he came to work in like a white beater and shorts, and you know, like I came in with like sweatpants on, just like
yeah,
treating it like I was just at home or something. And
yeah.
they
I
didn't say
wouldn't do that.
anything, but they kind of was crazy. This was in like this Bank of America building, and being in the elevator with lawyers and stuff. I'm pretty sure, like, man, what is this guy doing here?
Yeah, they probably looked at you like, what's going on? Why are they here?
Right. I think like another thing is like we have to kind of be careful. Like when we first get a job, like you have to also look like you're trying to find the answers yourself. Like it's good to ask questions, but you don't want it to be like you're asking so many questions that it looks like you're not even trying to research things yourself. You know what I mean?
I think it's not so. Some of my people ask a lot of questions, but it's not the quantity, it's the quality of the question.
Yeah.
Mm,
Sometimes they'll ask stuff and you just know that they didn't take 5 minutes to figure it out themselves.
Mm.
Or sometimes they'll ask, and you'll notice it's like, didn't you just ask that a few days ago?
Oh yeah.
And a week later, didn't you just ask that a week ago and a few days before that?
yeah,
But it's rare. Sometimes it happens when there's a lot of, priority shifts, a lot of deadlines. But generally, most of the people, when they start on my team, they do ask a lot of questions, but I'll drop everything that I'm doing and help them. I
Mhm.
think it's the quality of the question. Sometimes they're thinking things through, and sometimes they don't want to think things through.
Right. They just kind of want to lean on you for the answer. Like,
yeah,
so do you ever find like y'all kind of have to, maybe answer a question with a question like, hey, did you look into this? Like, kind of like research it yourself, but in a nice way. Like, did you try this? Did you look at this?
yeah, yeah.
Or do you always just give them the answer?
I'm a sucker. I'll give the answer. I'm very much like, especially if it's new territory for that person.
Mm.
Um, but I'll walk them through why certain things are the way that they are.
Yeah.
Um, and leave them with that. Like the first go around, yeah, you can get the answer for free, depending on how complex it is. But if it becomes a recurring thing of like Kashan was saying, you asked this last week, or you asked this a month ago, or such
Mhm.
or such and such, then I stop answering. Then I'm like, oh, we did this before. Remember when we did this last Monday? Just do that again, but change this to this. And
Mhm.
then it's less of here's the answer and more of we did this last week. Go reread, go try again. your princess is in another castle. But go over here and do this, and then it takes less work on my part, and puts the ball back in their court. If that makes sense.
Mm. Like I was kind of teaching somebody, I don't, like WordPress, Divi. I was teaching them today,
Yeah,
and like initially I was kind of giving them the answers, but then I
yeah,
also introduced them to Google and Stack Overflow. Like, in this industry, if you don't really know what you're doing, this is how we go about solving problems. Like, I think it's important to teach, like juniors, et cetera, how to research and, let them know you're not always going to know something.
yeah.
Got a question from Luis on LinkedIn. He says, uh, if a developer is good and able to complete their work in half the time, should they do more, or can they use the remaining of the time to do what they want to do? What are your thoughts?
Hmm. I would say, as long as you're getting the work completed, that's what matters. And, sometimes, honestly, like if I was over a team, I'm not gonna just like try to squeeze out every single ounce of productivity. Like y'all have to
Yeah,
just be doing work related stuff because that's how you burn people out. Sometimes, like
yeah,
you mentioned the Pomodoro method, like
yeah.
sometimes you need an intense focus time and then you need something to decompress. So let
Hmm.
these guys decompress. What about
Yeah,
y'all?
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I think so. The way our team culture is structured is that the hours aren't important, whether you work a few hours
Yeah.
or whether you work 8 or whether you work more. What's more important is, that we're driving towards, the right kind of progress. But that being said, I mean, I know that I get stuff done really fast. I just use the rest of the time to look at special projects, help people decompress
Mhm.
or whatever, and I
Mhm.
extend that to my team as long as they don't abuse it.
Right. Like you don't want them just like playing PlayStation like 6 hours, rushing through their work.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do y'all mind though? Like, okay, say they finish their work in 4 hours, can they spend the other four like, I'm gonna go to the beach, or do they need to be like available but kind of
Uh,
free to do what they want?
I would say they have to be available. Like, don't like going to the beach seems a little much. But like, if you're gonna use your lunch break to go to the beach, okay, cool. Just be back within the hour or whatever. Um, because I used to do that regularly. It's like, okay, I'm going to the gym, and then like
Mhm.
lunch slash gym, come back in like an hour, maybe an hour and 10 tops based on traffic. But then I'm back at at a specific time, right?
Yeah.
So because I feel like uh, even though like if tasks are at least from where I'm currently working now, even if tasks are complete, things come up all the time, especially at a startup, right? Things came up, and especially when you're managing an e-commerce website, discounts need to be turned off, products need to be marked as sold out, things need to be changed, like sporadically throughout the day. So it's less of okay, here's the three things I have to get done for the day. If I get done by 11, okay, cool, I can play PlayStation for the next 8 hours, and more of I need to be available, whether it's for a huddle or a phone call, or if
Mhm.
another engineer pulls me aside and needs help with something. So,
So
yeah,
that they can play PlayStation as long as they're available when if something pops up.
I would say like like just like be present and like
Yeah,
available and like have the pause button ready. Like if you are gonna play around with your time like that.
I tell
Um,
my team, set your hours, but the ones where we expect an overlap to happen,
yeah,
then be available or be present, even
yeah,
if you're not engaged.
yeah,
Our people, we get things done really quickly, so but we're not burning gas all the time,
Mhm.
like like back to back, like you grind a little, you relax a little, you pace it out.
mhm,
That's kind of how we are here.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I seem to grind almost all the time, but I protect my team members from the burnout. And on the one hand, if I'm going to offer the schedule and the flexibility that I do, my part as a leader is to make sure they can enjoy it at least most of the time.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you don't really have a flexible schedule. Um, but like Terrence said, like I don't care if I play PlayStation sometimes because I just need to get away.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we just completed our SOC 2 compliance, and I mean our team. I had people ready to bail out and just leave. They're like, this is too much. So I
Mm.
spent a lot of time trying to help them manage their work and life expectations to prevent that from happening. So there's probably a lot of PlayStation 5 time that I'm not aware of. I
So
think the
like,
key is to not disappear.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Like when
You have to,
we're joining a new job though, like how soon should you be able to take vacation day? 2 weeks in, is that fine?
I don't agree with that. 2 weeks is too soon. You don't understand the system ins and outs, like the day to day, like how people communicate. You don't understand your team and stuff. Like once you understand, like, who your teammates are, how they perform, go through a couple of sprint cycles, and then, like, I think like 90 days at least. Like, understand that. Like, give yourself like 3 months. Like, even 3 months. Like, the little voice in the back of my head is telling me like 6 months. Like 6 months in, that'll give me the confidence of, like, okay, I've been here. I know who Kevin is. I know who Sean is. I know
Mm.
who Paul is, or I know who Lucille is. Like, I know my team, and if I have a question, I know who I can go to and who I can't go to, and I know what a sprint is like structure wise, and like what stress I can handle, what I can't handle. So yeah, I would say, like, if you're first joining a new job, like, put the PlayStation in a box and, like, really, like, hone in on the stuff, and, like, play it on the weekends when you're not working. But, like, during the
Mm.
week, like, don't juggle it. Just focus in.
In the beginning, a new team member is looking for early wins,
Yeah,
like what's discussed in that book, The First 90 Days.
yeah,
You're looking for early wins and to build. Oh,
yeah.
yes,
I got it. Yeah,
awesome, and to build trust.
yeah, yeah.
People
Definitely.
ask me as a leader all the time, well, how do you like what makes uh, what makes you trust a developer as a manager or as a leader? And it took me a long time to actually figure that out. I can only probably just now barely answer it, but I think it's if they know they can go to you and get a result, then that's trust. If they don't feel like they
Mhm.
can get a result, then there's going to be distrust.
Mm,
Yeah,
And
I agree with y'all. Like availability is huge if you want to trust somebody that's under you. Like, if something needs to be done, can I reach out to them and can they run with the ball or are they always missing? Like you don't want to come into a new job and people feel like you're sporadically showing up, but they
yeah,
can't get a hold of you consistently.
yeah. You have to be available. You have to be. It's communication. Is what it comes down to.
yeah,
Especially with, like, working from home. It's
Yeah.
and everybody being remote. Um, this remote work, there are some sacrifices you have to make.
yeah,
You have to be available. You have to be, like, to have that communication, and then you earn that trust,
mm,
over time. And but even if it's like for example, this new company that I'm joining, they're on East Coast time. It's not a problem for me because I'm a early bird, but if I wasn't, like, I would have to put myself into a position where I can, I gotta wake up at 6, or I have to be available at 6, because if they have stand up at 9, their 9 o'clock is my 6. And then, even though the day ends at 2 or whatever, like, after 2, or you know what I mean? Like, my day flips upside down. I have to
yeah.
accommodate my day for the East Coast time zone. So my lunch changes, my workout time changes, like, everything changes. And but I think when you find the right people that are willing to accommodate for those differences, those time changes, that says a lot about you. Because even though so and so is on the West Coast, and they have to be up at this time, like, it's less of you saying, oh, I'm doing this for you, I'm doing that for you, and more like, oh shit, he's really up at this time, he's really available for
Mm.
calls at this time, he's helping this, and he's doing this, he's doing that. Like, your actions speak louder than your words. So I think putting in the actions in those first 90 days is going to be really important.
So like, what are some of the other things like like a new person to a company can do to kind of get some wins in that first 90 days, establish trust, establish their reputation as someone who's kind of like a go-to guy or somebody that's reliable.
Be realistic with yourself, and like I used to be the kind of person that wanted to be like Superman and come in and I can do this and I can do that and I can do all these different things and solve all these problems, but in reality, I was just trying to impress people, but I was being unrealistic to myself. And so when I jumped into 8 feet thinking that I could swim, coming up like and not coming up for air like sooner, meaning like if I run into a problem, instead of telling somebody early on, I try to tough it out and just grind through it on my own. Uh, that ended up failing 9 times out of 10 because I didn't just wave the white flag and be like, "Hey, I got a problem. Hey, Sean, can you help me?" And more of, "No, I got this. I can figure it out on my own." So just be realistic with yourself. Like if you're stuck on a problem, it's okay to say like, "Hey, I'm stuck. Hey, I don't know what I'm doing." Or, "Hey, I'm lost."
What about you, Sean? You got any input on that one?
I think, honestly, I think Terrence answered it beautifully.
Mm.
I don't know what I could add to that. I would be repeating some of what he said.
Oh, okay.
Um, Also, there's another question on the LinkedIn.
Sure.
Cool.
Uh, Also from Louis or Louise. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right.
Mm.
But do any of you have a CS degree? If so, did you have issues to get your first developer role? And if you don't have a degree, how did you get the first developer job?
So for me, my degree is actually in accounting. I got a bachelor's in accounting. I couldn't find a job, kind of from a small town. So like it's very hard to find a job in accounting. And come to find out, accounting doesn't really pay that well. Like I'm friends with a guy on LinkedIn. He lives in LA. He has an accounting degree. He's been working in the industry for a while. Like you would think like accountants make like 80, 90K, but a lot of them make like 40K or something. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
I had to shift over and do something different. So I taught myself programming. It's about 6.5 years ago. Um, if you don't have a computer science degree and you're not coming from a boot camp, you have to have a great portfolio and something that like distinguishes you. You have to show like you're self-directed. You can go out there and look for answers. Like what really helped me out was I had like a programming blog, and you know the guy interviewing me, he was like, "Okay, yeah, did you write this? Like this is good stuff." You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that's kind of like what helped me get in the industry. Y'all have anything on that?
I don't have a degree. Um,
Mm.
I did attend a college back in '97 for the. I guess the degree was called 3D graphics and animation
No,
because I was into digital 3D graphics and stuff at the time, and I had done software development, but I had never been exposed to that side of it before. And I took a semester. You're literally building 3D graphic engines in the first semester from scratch
Wow.
because there weren't a lot of tools for it at the time. The math was higher than what I was ready for at the time. It was 4 years crammed into three, and I couldn't keep up. I was on Dean's list. I did well, but I saw myself. But I met some friends that did software engineering as a course track there. So I switched. My second semester was a first semester of software engineering, and I jumped straight into writing proofs. And I'm like, man, I'm way in over my head. So I dropped out. My learning style again isn't sitting in class for 32 weeks a semester or whatever. It's just doing.
mm,
Um, so I went into a sales job selling laptops. These things were like $6,000 each at the time for 24 megs of memory, a little 640 by 480 screen, and a CD-ROM if you were lucky. And I sold a lot, but our quota was literally 4 of those a month. I sold 1 or more a day, but because I took a city bus, I sometimes was late, and the boss just hated that, and it created a lot of friction. So I left from there into my first software development job. Microsoft has this software tool called Access, which is a database and a little bit of Visual Basic. I wrote my own database for the sales job in Access and a little bit of SQL. And I thought I was good enough to go get a job doing it full time. So I became a VB, a Visual Basic programmer, and then I switched to C#, and that's how I got in, just by convincing somebody that I could do it.
Nice.
I don't think not having a degree hurt me. There's obviously some opportunities that checked me off the list. You don't have a degree, you can't start here. But what I have learned, at least as a developer, a lot of that was more in the head. If you could convince them, they'd be happy to, especially if you're a referral, you can bypass the whole process. As a leader, or my future jobs would be like director of engineering or engineering manager, like a senior one, or CTO. That's a different story. They definitely gate you by whether you have a master's degree. So just remember that. If all you're going to do is be a software developer, it's not a big deal. If you're going to be a leader, there might be some challenges, but maybe not.
Yeah. I didn't take the traditional route either. I attempted several times. I'm in the same boat as Sean, where I need to get my hands dirty and I need to actually break some stuff in order to cook some eggs. And I tried the traditional route of going through like JC and taking my general educations, but I kept asking myself, like, why do I need to know the history of America in order to be a programmer? Why do I need to know philosophy and Marxism and all this stuff in order to become a computer programmer or whatever? And after I think 3 semesters of dropping out and coming back in the fall and dropping out again and coming back in the fall and dropping out again, like, I just told myself I'm not going to try anymore. I'm just wasting my time. And from there, I worked at McDonald's for about 6 months or whatever. That was fun, to say the least. But I realized that, like, the paycheck that I got after 2 weeks and what a house, not what a house, but like what a studio apartment looked like, it just wasn't going to cut it. I wasn't going to be able to support myself. And long story short, I didn't go back and get like a computer science degree. I ended up going to a trade school and learning computer repair. But I always knew that I wanted to get back into programming. Like, that was my passion. And I told everybody, like, that's what I want to do. This is just like a side thing. But I call it the long way around. But I took like it was like really weird. But like one thing led to another, led to another, led to another, and I ultimately ended up at the UCLA coding boot camp where I met one of the mentors or the teachers or whatever, and he basically gave the advice of like, hey, this is how you apply to jobs. Don't do it that way. You're just wasting your time. And I convinced somebody that I had the chops to do this. They liked the fact that I had the tenacity to want to learn and the ability to like teach myself Shopify, and he took a shot on me. So I think it's like, from all of our stories, it's really just like, you have to put in the work, even though you're not getting paid for it. Like, you have to, like, if you really love this, if this is really what you want to do and you're not doing it for dollar signs, then, you'll get there. Like, you'll get rewarded for it, but it's going to take a lot of grit and it's going to take a lot of hustle. And there's so much opportunity now than there was like 3 years ago, 6 years ago, or back in 96 or 97, right? Like, if you really want this, like, the knowledge is at your fingertips. Like, just Google it.
Yeah, being like self-directed and proactive, that's really important. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
You have to reach out to people. You have to show like, hey, I can do. I like to learn. I know how to learn. I know how to teach myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in some ways, I think that's what, maybe a self-taught programmer, they might have an advantage over somebody who's just relying on their degree. Like if you're actively seeking and teaching yourself, because this is like a learning industry, you can't just rely on something you learned at school, like, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I
Sean, I
tell
have a question.
people, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I tell people, and I believe this to be mostly true. I started coding in, man, I'm going to date myself, but it was 1987. And I think that most of what I learned in that first 2 years there, and then again professionally when I started in 98, my first 2 or 3 years there, is almost everything I needed to know throughout the next 20 something years. The concepts and the ideas that I learned, it gets repackaged every 5 or so years with different marketing, different tools, different frameworks, but it's exactly the same stuff we were doing back in the 90s and in the 80s. It's just the tooling has improved, the marketing has improved, the way the community thinks about it has improved. The fact that there's even a community, there was no internet back then. But literally, you learn most of what you're going to learn your first few years. And then after that, it's a race to keep up with the latest frameworks and tools.
Yeah.
I could
I
be
would-
wrong. Some people who switch, like if you switch into gaming or you switch into data science and AI or you switch into like fintech, then obviously you're going to pick up a new set of tools. But if you stay in the same space, it seems like the cycle rehashes every few years.
Yeah, I could see that. It was definitely a time where like when I was studying, this was before like actually getting a dev job, like our friend Jenny, she was like, yeah, you should look into this thing called TypeScript. And I'm just like, what is that? Like it's weird. And it's like, yeah, but it's like it's so cool. You can do this and you can do that. It's like Java for JavaScript. Like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. I'm kicking myself in the butt now because like everybody's like, bro, TypeScript's the way of the future. JavaScript's trash. Like just use TypeScript for everything. And now that I'm learning it, I'm like, man, if I just jumped on it when I first saw it way back then, I'd have like 20 years of experience of TypeScript by now. Because it's really weird how like these new frameworks and stuff come out, and they're just like, we need somebody with like 15 years of experience in TypeScript, but it just came out, 10 years ago or 4 years ago or whatever.
But if
You
you
know,
were
they
a
have,
Java or a C# developer before that, the knowledge almost directly carries over, syntax wise.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because
crazy.
they were actually made by the same guy, both of the languages, Anders Hellsberg.
Anders, I don't know how to pronounce. I met him a few times.
Oh, wow.
Anders, I pronounce it Anders Hallsberg, but
Hmm.
yeah, he invented C# and Turbo Pascal.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Well, what
and
was he?
Delta
What was he
and
like?
Delphi. Very humble,
Mm,
very very friendly, very humble, more willing to listen than to speak. But once you got him going, he loved talking about his baby.
oh, like, where did you meet him, man? Like, where do you meet like tech? Like these tech giants at?
Yeah, at the Microsoft developer conferences.
Oh,
Hmm.
I didn't actually realize who he was the first time I met him. Yeah, like I'm the person, as shy and introverted as I am, I do randomly strike conversation with strangers where I go if I'm feeling it. And he was sitting next to me one day, and I just started talking, and then I later learned it was him when I went into the next room and he was presenting.
oh, wow.
That was right when the first time I met him was right when TypeScript was getting started.
Oh,
Hmm.
wow. So do y'all feel like there's a benefit from actually getting out and attending these different conferences and meeting different people?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you being amongst your people or finding your peers and being comfortable enough to strike up a conversation. I think that those are good skills to have. Um, and being able to socialize and just discuss and like practicing listening and as well as speaking. Um, I think yeah, just like getting out there and talking to people, it's it's really necessary because in this job we can be ourselves and be in our own head the majority of the day. And there's no need to really talk to anybody, even if you're just typing, right? You're not actually talking to people. But it's not healthy to just be in your headspace all the time and not really have that exhaust or have those de-stressful activities. Like, we're social creatures. Like, we need to socialize. So I think attending events and getting out there is super important.
I had an indirect experience through that. I go to these high caliber conferences, and I didn't always know who I was meeting. But sometimes it would be the person who wrote the book that I just read or that I was about to buy after meeting them. Or it was somebody who invented a programming language or somebody that started a company that I care about, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I would meet these people and find out they're just like me. They're no different than anybody at all. And I got over my fear of I'm just me and everybody else is on a pedestal. Because then I saw that humanity, we're all just people. And just that sometimes someone writes a book, someone starts a company, someone invents a language. But at our heart, we're all the same nerds geeking out over the same stuff.
Yeah.
So you pretty much learned to like not put them on a pedestal and just kind of treat them like everyday person.
Yeah, they're people.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like, what do y'all think about like making a concerted effort to get outside of your bubble? Like, like we're all coders. It's easy to just stay clustered amongst other coders, but
yeah.
What about expanding your like horizon, meeting say like a group of lawyers or anybody really?
Yeah, why not? No, go ahead.
No, you please.
So my grandpa used to say this a lot when he was alive. He's like, you only go around once, and it's like get everything you can out of it, and you never know who you're gonna meet if you just stick in your own circle. You're only gonna meet the same like-minded people if you just stay with in that same environment. And I've personally I've forced myself to talk with people that I haven't talked to regularly, especially if I see them around my apartment complex. Hey, how's it going? Oh, hey, I like your hair today. Hey, and and if I see the dog's name, oh, hey, Benji, how you doing? Benji doesn't care about me. Benji's on a walk this morning, right? He wants to go pee or whatever. But it's the social interaction that gets me out of my comfort zone. So I feel like it's really important because you never know who you're gonna meet. You never know what that person does or what they might do for you. And I don't really look at it like what they can do for me. It's more so you just that initial interaction of hi, have a good day. How's it going today? Like that could change somebody's day completely. And that's sort of why I do it. It's just to force myself out of that little bubble.
That was how I got this job as a CTO, was by just striking up conversation with random people, and then he had a need. And at the beginning, I didn't want to be the CTO. So one of my students that I had mentored from the coding bootcamp, I'm like, hey, someone's looking for a CTO role. And I thought, why don't you just apply? And he got the job. And then I later joined the company. And then he stepped down and I stepped up.
Mm.
Oh, yes.
In my personal life, I actually don't socialize with software engineers in my personal life, people I hang out with. I used to kind of just joke and say, software, just talking about coding all the time is boring. So I looked for other people.
Yeah.
But socializing in person, I spent a year or a year and a half not doing it. And when I started talking again, I realized that my social skills had to be refined again and relearned.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of like why we diversified the subject of this podcast, because initially, like me and Terrence, we would just talk about like coding interview, code stuff. It gets boring after a while. Like, you don't want to be in a box. And I find like, dealing with people and, like even like, what you're watching on YouTube, you don't want to just be in this, like, coding is not the world. You know what I mean? It's just like
Yeah.
this slice of life. You don't want to completely throw away like 98% of the world just sticking to this little, this little slice of the pie.
Yeah.
And, I like what you said, Terrence, about like, you're not looking for something from someone. Sometimes you just want to have a genuine interaction with them. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's important not to be transactional when just dealing with people. Like, what am I getting out of this?
Yeah. I think social media and specifically LinkedIn, people look at LinkedIn as like it's purely transactional, and it's like, why is it that way because you think it's that way, or like why do you think it's that way? Because you simply see people like, as in, hi guys, I need a job, I just got laid off, looking for this. And it's like, okay, well, are you connecting with me? The point I'm trying to make is this: are you connecting with me because you're looking for something? Or are you connecting with me because you saw something that you liked that I posted?
Mm.
But 9 times out of 10, it's mostly transactional. It's mostly, I have a role for you, or uh, can you help me get a job, or something, totally left field. It's like, what's your story? Who are you? Like, how's your day going? Like let's form some type of connection to
Yeah.
give me, not to say to give me a reason to want to help you, but if you're coming at me with purely transaction, it's like I'm gonna just tune it out mentally.
Yeah.
It's almost like seeing an ad on YouTube. Like, I just tuned it out. It's like, I want the content. I don't care about Dawn dish soap. Like, I just care about whatever the 10-minute YouTube video I'm about to watch is.
So you don't want to feel like you're used. Like, hey,
No.
hey, Terrence, got a job for me? And you say no. Okay, you never hear from him
Yeah,
again.
exactly. Yeah. No, okay. And never hear from him again. I'm just like, come on, bruh. Like,
I see it happen sometimes on LinkedIn also. Some people, there's been a great deal of people I've connected with over the years, or they're interactive, but then they get to like 100,000 followers or so on,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
and they're not interactive. Then they start curating their own network amongst the other influencers, and then they start
Mhm.
trying to funnel you into their other side channels, and then their
Yep.
content just changes. Like, it's
Yeah.
not even the same tone that it used to be. Now it's hyper polished to not be as edgy as it was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They lose themselves in what's the word? They not sell out, but it's like, you've got the following now. Now you need to clean up your image and make it look pristine, and it's
It's
like
corporatized
you
and
lose your
monetized.
what's the word I'm looking for?
Rawness, maybe like authenticity.
Authenticity. Yeah.
Authentic, yeah.
Yeah. You lose that authentic touch. It's like I subscribed to you for this, or I originally connected with you because we connected on this level,
Mm.
but you changed, and I'm no longer, I'm not your demographic anymore. Your demographic has changed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like once money comes into the picture, then things start melding into this weird, like neutered version of
Mhm.
itself. Like you can't really just say what you want to say because, oh, hey, can you not say that? The sponsors might get mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people do that though. I know some creators that are just like, I'm not taking this ad from Raid Shadow Legends because I don't like the product, and they keep it real to that degree. Um, but I'm not saying that 100% of what you see with all that video editing and everything is like their authentic self, but there are moments that possibly shine through. I personally believe that, like, if I don't see how the Kool-Aid is made, the Kool-Aid is still Kool-Aid. Like, a video is not going to tell me who a person is or what they're really like outside of that 16:9 video. Like, it just doesn't. Like,
It might not
regardless of the
always,
platforms.
sorry, it might not always need to. Like, I know in my case, sometimes the content is the content,
Yeah.
but it's interesting when you develop a relationship with people and you have a cool little back and forth. and some sort of a friendship, or it might be like artificial because it's just an acquaintance, but
Parasocial.
and then you just get ghosted behind the, behind the fame.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so like maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but like it stops because as they become bigger, they change who their demographic is, or their personality changes. They become less
It's less one-on-one friendship-esque and more of a celebrity type. Are you
less engaging to the community.
Hmm.
And then the personality just becomes like one where you're downloading information but you're not interacting with it. Whereas earlier on you were interacting with it.
Yeah.
So it comes from conversational to more like almost like marketing something to you, like.
Yes. Then you start to feel like you've become a product.
Yeah.
Rather than a community. That's probably how it. Yeah, thank you for those words.
Yeah,
I think it's important for us to, continue to engage with our community now that we can see the comments.
Yeah.
Is there anything new from anyone?
No. I hope one day I learn how to pronounce his name. Lewis, he said, I don't have a degree, and I had to show them that I was able to build stuff. Once they see my skills, that got me in the door.
Yeah. That I was about to.
Oh, what was you about to say, Terrence? Yeah.
Having a GitHub is more important than having like a portfolio website, in my opinion, because there's a lot of stigma behind like being a junior. Like, oh, I have to teach them this, I have to teach them that, I have to teach them Git, I have to teach them version control, I have to teach them how to do a PR and a branch and all this stuff. It's like, but if you can teach yourself that and be battle ready, like the less onboarding that they have to do, the more likely that you can. What's what I'm looking for? The more likely I'll lean towards picking you versus somebody else, just because that person has put in the legwork of teaching themselves all this other stuff. It'll be easier to teach them whatever missing piece, like fill in the gaps, essentially. If I have to hire two junior engineers, but one junior engineer already knows Git and the other one doesn't and doesn't use version control or anything else, it's going to be a hard sell.
Yeah.
So you almost want them to hit the ground running.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I still have to do my job. Like everything has to go swimmingly. Like I have to be able to pull you in, and if I push you into 4 feet of water and say swim, you better just start swimming or struggle enough to be able to learn.
One of the things I did when I read the first 90 days is I figured out how to apply it towards engineers starting their job. I also reversed it and turned a corporate onboarding program to the same principles. One of the things I tell people to do is there's certain skills you have to have when you come in, like your source control skills, certain skills about your role, like, if you're going to be a React developer and stuff. But other stuff, you have to be able to know how to get in and set up your computer, identify the file system, look at where the components are, figure out what their build process is, their deployment process, their hotfix process. Those are things you want to be focusing on when you first start, because honestly, getting things out the door is your number one priority. And I think it's a soft skill that when I onboard people, I do hire some junior developers at where I'm at. That is one thing I walk through with them, but I mean, I won't hire them if they don't already know Git. They're not that junior when I hire them, but I do help them focus and put them through, like, let's get something out the door. Let's do a hot fix. Those are the most valuable skills, I think, even before the skill itself.
So do y'all feel like there's a gap between like what boot camps and universities teach and between the practical skills they need to, kind of like get running, to hit the ground running? You know what I mean? Like they know good theory and all of this, but they don't really know Git. They don't know, common things, like one of the things for me, I didn't really know about like that whole agile thing. You know what I mean? Like that kind of was intimidating to me at first, assigning points to stories and all of that stuff.
I don't think many people who I encounter a lot of people who say they practice Agile, but they really don't. I think Agile is the least understood methodology.
Yeah.
Your question, my experience, I've met thousands of bootcamp grads, and I've taught at a few different schools. I almost taught at the UCLA one a few years back. I didn't though. And my experience is you're not going to get through a boot camp if you don't know Git. So some of those foundational skills are baked into the program. I think and I'm only speaking from opinion. I'm trying not to be too stereotypical or factual here. I just from my observation, I think that many years ago when I first started teaching in the coding school community, coding boot camps were relatively new within the past couple of years before that. And I think they did a great job. But then the market changed, the competition changed, but the curriculums didn't change. And I can't stereotype. There's probably going to be some that, have kept with it, or new ones that sprung up that know, what employers are looking for. I think in general, coding schools do okay. Like they do, people build projects and they push to version control, they deploy, they do those things. I think where they fall short or where they rise above is in how high their standards are. And probably if they were able to hire somebody from the industry to do mentoring versus hiring from their graduation pool. And even from there, like my own personal opinion, I think they do okay, but the competition is so fierce. I think they should be doing more.
More in terms of what exactly?
Like maybe a little bit longer and more intricate projects, or maybe even like apprenticeships or internships and stuff like that. There are a lot of coding school graduates these days that are finding it, like the last 3 years, that are finding it difficult to get their first job, more so than like in previous years. I don't know personally if that's a reflection of the school or just the competition. I don't have the right data to know, but I think that my advice to anybody is if you could get into a coding school, do it, because even if you can do it on your own, having a curated curriculum and mentors and a network of alumni is going to get you further than if you're doing it alone. I clearly haven't rehearsed my answers on this one, but
it's okay.
Yeah, I think that's all the topics I got for today. Y'all have anything else?
No, that's it. That's it for me.
So yeah, I think that's a good note to end this one. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. Catch y'all next time. Peace.
Awesome. Take care, guys.
Take care.